going along with the Brady bill and the federal government was going to violate my oath of office, and I said no. And I decided that I was going to sue the federal government. I was going to sue the Clinton administration. And when I told that to my wife, I don't want any of you to think that she was all excited about that. Because she wasn't, and I wasn't. It scared me to death. You see, I'd seen those lists of people who crossed Bill Clinton, and I didn't want to be on it. And my wife really didn't want me to be on it either. And so there was a time when I was doing all this that I thought, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. And as I look back, I have to tell you, I shouldn't have filed the lawsuit. I'm glad I have the decision now because it entirely backs up the 10th Amendment and what I believe is the solution. The solution is SS, state sovereignty. Yes. And then your local officials know and understand that it is not their prerogative, but it is their obligation and their duty to prevent the federal government from abusing you. We win. And, as I said, this is a peaceful solution. This is what I am about. That's what he is about. The solution can be peaceful and effective when we have local law enforcement, sheriffs, county attorneys. That's going to be a stretch. But county commissioners who know their duty to put themselves in the way, as Madison expressed it, that we can safely rely on their disposition to erect barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. And as Madison also expressed it, that we actually interpose ourselves on behalf of the people to keep them safe and from becoming victims of the federal government's tyranny. We can keep that peaceful and effective, and now that I'm being successful in this movement, what happens? Bob Schultz and I both are blasted as supporters of violence and lethal force in Time magazine in the October 12th issue, just 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we're both in Time magazine. It's on the front cover. It has some picture of some dangerous militia guy from Ohio, and I don't know him. Okay? And yet, the title of the article, front page, by this Bart Gelman guy, who I'd never heard of either before this, and he follows me around the country and wants to know what my solution is, and I keep telling him it's a peaceful one. And so what does he put in Time magazine? That I support lethal force against the federal government. And it's all in, and so what is the article? The secret world of extreme militias. And so Sam Bushman from Liberty Roundtable calls the bureau chief, name is Mike Duffy, the bureau chief of Time magazine in Washington, D.C., calls him. And he says, do you know Sheriff Mack? I said, yeah, I've seen his YouTube stuff. He says, is there anything secret about what Sheriff Mack is doing? No, I don't have any evidence of that. Is there anything that shows that he's part of the militia movement? No, we don't have any evidence of that. Is there anything in his message that it supports violence in any way? He refused to answer. And so I called the guy, same guy too, and he says, Sheriff, we know we didn't do anything wrong, but we'll print any editorial you hand us. And I'll personally walk it through. But you obviously have other options. Well, I'm going to take advantage of those. So if any of you hear that we came into money, it was from Time magazine. Real briefly, I tell you, I got so excited hearing Alex, I don't want to take very long. So I want to get him back up here, and maybe Joe Bannister to say a couple of things too. But this is the whole thing about my lawsuit against the federal government. We shouldn't have asked permission from the courts to keep our oath of office. State sovereignty isn't something you take to courts. State sovereignty is something you enforce, you implement, you stand with it as the ultimate check and balance against the federal government's encroachments. There is something in the Constitution. There is a mechanism established by our founders that put us in the power seat to keep the federal government off our back. And it's called the 10th Amendment. It's called state sovereignty. It's called standing and doing what you know is right. Just everything Alex has been saying. But do that in your own backyard. If any of you think that that's going to happen in Washington, D.C., I've got beachfront property for you in Omaha. It's not going to happen there. And so, if you look at all the sheriffs in history that have ever sued the federal government and won a case at the United States Supreme Court, you'll not find very many. Ultimately, there were 7 sheriffs who joined this lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court, and Sheriff Prince and myself actually ended up at the U.S. Supreme Court. And on June 27, 1997, the United States Supreme Court ruled this: but the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. You see, they got it. And they didn't make up something new. They didn't give their opinion. They supported the Founding Fathers' intent of the 10th Amendment and of states' rights, and they actually reinforced the Constitution. And that's why this ruling is so powerful. And you need to make sure, go to sheriffmac.com and make sure you get some of these decisions yourself. Because I ran out in Sacramento, I would have brought them here tonight. But I have a little pocket-sized form, just like the pocket-sized constitutions. I have the Supreme Court decision. It's called the Victory for State Sovereignty. It's about 15 pages is all. It takes 10 minutes to read about the principle that the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government precisely so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. End quote. You see, did you get that last part? The crisis of the day? What's the Obama administration motto? Never let a good crisis go to waste. And so now they actually bring out that principle in this decision, in the Mac Prince case. And he reinforces the power of the states. If every one of your local officials, your county officials, will support and defend and uphold the principle, that one sentence, that the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions, we win. We get our freedom back tomorrow. Never forget that we, the people, have the ultimate power. The 10th Amendment says it, that all powers not delegated to the federal government or the United States Congress are reserved to the states or to the people. This is where it's at. We can win all this. And now, before I sit down, I want to ask you one thing. I'm going to get political here for a second. Okay? If Ron Paul was running for governor in California on a third-party ticket, would you vote for him? Yeah. Me too. In fact, you can tell him if he runs for president, I'll be his vice president. There's a Ron Paul running in California on a third ticket. Her initials are Shalene Nightingale. Okay? There's not a woman. Okay? There's no one. I've endorsed her. I'm putting my life on the line with her. I'm putting my name with her. There's not anyone that should compromise their vote for those two mainstream candidates and think that that's going to get California anywhere. Vote your conscience. Vote for the Ron Paul candidate. And let's take a stand for freedom. Yeah. Last of all. Okay? Everyone, do not compromise your vote. Yeah, let's do it. In closing, I'd just like to say this. It's an honor to share the stage with Alex. It's absolutely an honor. And in closing, I'd just like to leave you with one little thought. Of all the people that sued Bill Clinton, I was the only one to do so on a non-sexual matter.
These guys are both in town tomorrow night, so I'll probably wrangle them in for the next great crowd tomorrow night, because this one's sold out. We're going to do 30 minutes of questions now, and I kind of like this down here with everybody. This is awesome. And again, I want to just thank all the security. Let's get a question from this lady right here. Ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that the U.S. Navy is planning to expand their warfare testing in the Pacific Ocean. They're talking about taking, which means to kill, capture, harass 32 species of marine mammals, plus using depleted uranium and other chemicals. And I was wondering if you could explain what the military is with these types of programs, plus the geoengineering chemtrail programs with the Air Force are all tied in to what you were talking about tonight.
Well, wonderful set of questions, and I could have spoken all night just on those three questions. Of all those issues, probably the least harmful, but it's horrible, but comparatively it's not as big as geoengineering and DU, is the fact that they're testing in the last decade high-powered sonar systems that can be heard throughout the entire ocean. Of course, sound travels at one speed in the atmosphere and another in the water, and every time the Navy tests these, whales en masse beach themselves, other marine mammals. And it just shows they'll give the troops DU to use as a weapon that ends up killing them over time. And they don't care if they're doing these sonar tests that end up killing whales. On the subject of geoengineering, chemtrails as they're known, I remember the old timers 15 years ago saying the government's spraying barium, salts, aluminum dioxide, sulfur. And now the White House science czars come out and said basically they're playing God and that they're doing all these different tests, and it just shows how these people think they're God, and they can create environmental disasters, weather disasters, and then promote that as a pretext to bring more control in over the internet and more control over the environment, more control with carbon taxes. So weather weapons are quite real, and I've interviewed Ben Livingston, the former head of the Pentagon's weather weapons program. Let's go to a question over here. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name's Dale. I grew up in this area, and as I understand, I could have it wrong, but Santa Cruz was one of the main starting beds for Agenda 21.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah, that's just like San Francisco's where the UN was created. Yeah.
Right. I find it ironic that you're here. So they call this God's sense of humor. So, whatever the case.
Well, for every action, there's an equal reaction.
So, what we're up against is multi-generational organized evil.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it. Multi-generational organized evil. I'm going to steal that term. I think we've said it in other ways, but it's very well said, sir.
Sure. Keep it simple. So, a lot of you people have seen some pamphlets on it. It's one form of organization, but we need to work from a position of integrity, not pushing somebody down, but offering guidelines. So I'm back from Russia, 4 years in Russia, and I know what's coming. I've lived it, okay? And it's just a super festive form of communism. But what I'm inviting, what I want to ask is how can we work with InfoWars, with you, because you're the point on the spear, all right? So there you go.
Well, thank you, sir. God bless you. Look, I am part of the tip of the spear, as all of you are. I'm just trying to organize and run my operation, and hell, I'm some guy that has trouble balancing my checkbook. So, when it comes to listen, what makes us so hard to stop is that we are unorganized. And if we all just take back our counties and our cities and our states, and if we inform people about Agenda 21 and the globalist plan, it's going to fall like a house of cards. As all of you resist in little ways every day, mainly by informing others, it's unstoppable. But God bless you. Keep up the great work, sir. Go ahead.
Hi. The other day you had a guest on your show by the name of Lindsay Williams.
Yes.
And he mentioned that someone he knew, he didn't mention the name, had dinner with Janet Napolitano of Homeland Security, and that she had specifically told this